Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about the upcoming budget for the year 2020, 2021, 22 rather. And now it is believed that this budget is going to be a huge relief for the people who are salaried class. This is going to be a growth-oriented budget. This is going to be a pro-poor budget, and this is going to give a lot of relief to those who are working and those who are the salaried class, as I earlier mentioned. Talking about the GDP expected growth, that has been put at 3.94%, or you can roughly say it around 4%. Despite the fact that Pakistan went through a lot of crises, especially the whole globe suffered this menace of coronavirus that has put a halt to so many business and economic activities all over the world, and especially in our part. But having said that, there was this very interesting report I was going through, and that indicated that in the United States of America, the overall growth rate is also increasing, and obviously the impact of that huge global economy, whether you talk about USA or China perhaps, that is going to give a lot of boost to the overall global outlook. Another very important factor is that when you see the oil prices going up, that very clearly indicates that the economic growth is taking place, because when you look at the energy demand, that is increasing slowly. At the same time, the prices are going up, but yet the oil producing countries, they're also increasing the output. So that is a very good indicator. If you talk about the restaurants, they are open now, business activities are taking place, people are going to work now, and slowly things are getting back to normal. Though it won't be absolutely the way it used to be, but at least we are on the right path, provided again that we take care of ourselves and others, and we keep on wearing masks and we follow the SOPs and the basic protocols. I would say that in another 3 to 6 months, things would be a lot better. Let's say by the end of this year, it is generally believed that around 70,000 people, 70 million people, that's 7 crore, would be vaccinated. And that is going to give a lot of, I think, boost to the overall working culture. To talk about this, what sort of a budget it is, what sort of an economic vision the government has at the moment, what exactly Imran Khan is thinking, what sort of a policy would be there when you talk about curbing the inflation, because we have learned that the interest rate has been kept at 7% as far as the monetary policy is concerned. When you talk about the inclusive and sustainable growth, what sort of an agenda do they have? You talk about large-scale manufacturing, we have heard it's gaining momentum, so the cases with the services sector. Agriculture has shown a lot of growth, especially in the basic crops that include wheat, that includes rice, even sugarcane. Growth has surpassed around 20%. So you can well imagine things are on the right track. But still, there are a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles, a lot of hindrances, and especially when you talk about the political challenge to the current government, and that shows us that perhaps passing the budget is going to be a huge challenge. But the main crust of today's program, I'll just tell you about that. The upcoming budget proposed by the PTI-led government will bring huge relief to the salaried class people. While inflation is increasing in the country, people's purchasing power has also increased. Within the next 2 years, under the leadership of the Prime Minister Imran Khan, the country will achieve its goal of progress. This was stated by Fawad Chaudhry, the Federal Minister of Information and Broadcasting. He further stated that the State Bank of Pakistan has reduced the risk weight of banks, DFIS, from 200% to 100% on their investment in units of real estate investment trusts for 5 years to facilitate development of housing, finance and capital markets. So that is stated by the SBP, and let's see what sort of an impact it can have on the overall economy of Pakistan. But let me quickly introduce you to our panelists we have with us in our studio. On my right is Dr. Farida Faisal. She's a senior economist. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your time. And on Skype, we have with us the former chairman of FPR, Abdullah Yusuf Saab. And we also have with us Sana Tawfiq Saiba. She's a senior economist. Abdullah Saab and Sana Saiba, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very much once again. But let me put this first question to you, ma'am. Now, generally, it is believed that around 11th of June, we'll be having this next budget. when you look at the figures, a lot has been done, a lot still more needs to be done. But still, if you look at the numbers, it seems that Pakistan has performed well as far as the region is concerned and otherwise as well. And looking at this realistic approach regarding 3.9% or 3.94% growth, a lot of people believe that, well, this is going to remain between 2 to 3%. Few believe that 3 to 4%. Do you see this target being achieved once the numbers are there on the table, let's say, when we talk about the end of this current fiscal year, ma'am? Your take on that?
Actually, Faisal, I see this target being surpassed. I think it's you know, when we were starting out last year, and some of us, you know, the people who like to look at things positively, we were saying that the growth rate is highly, you know, it's underestimated when the World Bank and IMF were putting it, you know, around 1.5 to 2%. Even it was quite obvious because a lot of growth was visibly happening in sectors like, you know, construction. I mean, that is something that you can see. And the business sentiment was also improving. So it was quite clear at that time that we are going to surpass that, you know, estimate. And I suppose that estimate was made because initially Corona had hit us very hard, and it could have been an L-shaped kind of a recovery, but it was not. So for us, it has been a V-shaped recovery, which means we've hit rock bottom and now the only way to go is up. So it's good. I mean, the figures are very realistic, and I believe that the kind of you know, on the ground, the business activities which are taking place, and keeping in mind the positive business sentiment which is reflected to some extent in the stock exchange as well. Look at the heights that it has reached, you know, and also the measures taken by the State Bank. I believe that the growth rate figures are going to be even better than what is being suggested. I think it may even surpass 5% this time.
So let's take the same point to the lady in Karachi, Sana Tawfiq Saiba. Sana Saiba, tell us that when we talk about 3.94%, Dr. Farida believes that this is something which we have already surpassed. And on top of that, there is another very important factor, and that is about looking at the grey area of our economy, because that's huge. Do you think that is also going to impact positively in the overall growth as far as the economy is concerned, as far as Pakistan is concerned? And since a lot of, you know, ifs and buts and those confusions, they have been cleared regarding Corona, so people have started taking life normally now, and that kind of a momentum that was lost earlier, we are getting back there. We are gaining it slowly, but I would say surely. Ma'am, your take.
Thank you, Faisal. Thank you for having me on this. So, as ma'am has rightly pointed, if you talk about economy in general, we have seen improvement in all major fundamentals of the economy, from positive primary balance to current account surplus. So our economy seems to be moving in the right direction, and even the recent GDP number of 3.94, which we expect to be around 4.5%, revised numbers are shared by the government. So this creates the strong rebound in the economy, which I believe is well supported by targeted fiscal measures and also the aggressive monetary stimulus provided by the State Bank of Pakistan. So this growth is definitely expected to persist and translate into a higher growth next year. So I believe now is the time to consolidate. So even the budget that is around the corner, I think the key objective of this budget should be to continue the growth momentum and that has been witnessed this year, and also to focus on the improving welfare of masses whilst also maintaining the fiscal health. So we have done a brief exercise on the numbers this year. So we believe that as ma'am rightly pointed, that this number is going to cross 4.5% GDP growth this year, mainly on the back of double-digit growth in LSM and also in services sector. So has been shared incorporates 6 to 9 months number. So last quarter, we are going to see a huge jump in large-scale manufacturing index. And with trade going up, we will see an impact on the services sector, the wholesale and retail sector to be specific. So this number is going to go up and will help the overall GDP growth number to surpass 4%.
All right, ma'am, another very important factor, because last year, other than COVID, we faced another huge issue in the agriculture sector, and that was regarding the locust attack, if you remember, ma'am. So this year, when you talk about wheat, 27 million meals, ma'am, that is the achievement. You talk about rice, so we have also been able to, in fact, grow more rice. The numbers are very significant. And then 20% growth again in the sugarcane sector, though a lot of people were thinking that this year people might not, have this crop because of the issues in the sugar mills and various other, problems related to the same issue. But interestingly, that is also something very, very positive. You think, ma'am, the agriculture, as you mentioned, that the large-scale manufacturing is going to show double-digit growth, so the case of the services sector, but agriculture has always been your backbone, ma'am. Do you believe that this is going to be the major catalyst for that sort of a push or a jump towards that figure 5, the magic number?
Okay, sir, yes, we do expect the agriculture also to be revised once the final numbers are shared with us. So, as we know that production and demand plunged all over the world. It's not only specific to Pakistan. So, especially the essential goods. So, commodity prices took a nosedive, putting significant pressure on the commodity-dependent economies like Pakistan. So, notwithstanding this global phenomenon, we have seen commodity sector in Pakistan outperforming the historic average growth rate, that is of 1.9%. This is average growth rate of last 5 years. So we grew by 3.2% this year, which we expect to go up to 4.3% once the full and final numbers are shared. So this growth would be primarily led by livestock and also the manufacturing sector in the agriculture sector. So these two sectors comprise of almost 25% of the GDP basket. So once we get the numbers, which we believe are going to go up, so we will see that overall the agriculture number is also going to go up. You were talking about wheat and other crops. So yes, from the initial crisis expectation to upsurge in production in wheat in the later part of the fiscal year 21. So wheat has surpassed the estimates of around 25.3 thousand tons. And we have seen a growth of 8.1% in this particular segment. So with important crops having marked a jump of around 4 to 5% in this year. So we believe that this number has surpassed the previous averages. So if this year all goes well, if we do not face any natural calamity, so just imagine the number we are going to achieve once everything is in place and we achieve our targets as per our targeted goals.
All right. Now, Abdullah Yusuf Saab, I hope I'm audible to you, sir. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Okay. I am
Good to have you in the show, sir. Thank you so much for your time. But Abdullah Yusuf Saab, whenever we get to talk, I always, put this question regarding the tax to GDP ratio. This year, under 4,000, that is what is expected. Do you think, sir, that is an ambitious, over-ambitious, or maybe an appropriate kind of a figure, sir?
Now, you see, this 4 trillion or so is the actual tax target. And it has to be actually increased every year. One is your inflation side, and then the important thing, which is very critical, is the increase in your taxpayer base, which is unfortunately not really coming up as, the potential is, because we have, unfortunately, this cash economy and non-documented economy, and as a result, we are not really able to get those potential potential taxpayers in that net. So now 4 trillion is definitely, increased over the period, and that has to be done. Now the point is that going forward, what really has to be done, and that, in my view, is your systematization through automation to increase your taxpayer base, because there is a tax gap, still a big gap that we have, and we are not really able to manage that so far. So this is something which is a very critical area which requires that focus from the government.
Now, Abdullah Yusuf Sahab, another very important factor, we've talked about this automation formula, and I'm sure that is going to work. That is the way forward, actually. The whole world is moving towards the digital economy. They are moving towards the digital money. Over here, sir, we still believe in cash. We still believe in those notes, keeping them in the safes and the lockers and even in the basements of the houses. To be very honest, sir, I think the call was dropped, but we'll get back to Abdullah Saab in a little while. But let me put the same question to you, ma'am. Talking about the cash economy or the grey area of economy. Now, the problem is that when you talk about agriculture, every single handling is cash. I mean, I know this is what the way is. You talk about so many other businesses for that matter. Even you go to purchase any other product, like for example, if you're constructing a house, let's take that example. Ma'am, building a bathroom for that matter. I'll just give you a very straight example. You know what? They know that once they will have that credit card, they'll have to pay the tax. So they will not accept that. They'll give you discount on the cash. They actually promote the cash transaction at every level. Yeah. Honestly speaking, there are people who actually sold their house at 25% less because there was another party who were offering them cash, but they said that how will we prove that? How did we get this money? And the money trail matters these days. The point is that this is what is happening. Those who have cash or the black money, they're super loaded, but they're not the taxpayers, interestingly. So, ma'am, mechanism, I mean, the way forward, and honestly speaking, for the last 20 years, ever since I started my career, I've been hearing about this. Hafiz Sheikh Saab, whether in PTI or in People's Party, was always, used to talk that, we have identified 70,000, 20,000, 25,000 people, and they'll be in the tax net soon. It never happened. Nobody who was a big fish ever got caught. People get away, despite being obvious fraudsters. This is what is happening.
Yes, I think, Faisal, we've had a very big problem, and our tax to GDP ratio is so low that it's honestly, something which we need to hide as a nation, that only, 10% of the people in the whole country are taxpayers were. But the tax net over the time is going to be increased now, and there are some reasons for it now, Faisal, because you see the FATF, it might have been a big problem for us, but on an international level, maybe it was.
But ma'am, are we geared up for that?
But,
are we ready?
But what happened, while we were trying to, get out of that, the FATF issue, we had to necessarily document the economy to some extent. Secondly, I think linking up everything with NADRA now makes a lot of sense, because that is one way. Wherever transaction happens, if the NADRA identity card number is added, then it would be possible at some stage, and particularly if you take the tax collector out of the system and make it more digital, then the AI will be able to identify how is it possible that the same person with a particular NADRA number has been spending so much money, even let's say at a hospital. How is he able to afford millions of rupees in a hospital and then not paying the taxes? So 2 plus 2 will be added, and then there'll be no person in between. So the point being that the system of taxation has so many issues, and the biggest issue which leads to, you see, not the tax avoidance. That's not illegal. Tax avoidance is not illegal, but it's there. And due to that, you see, fewer taxes are collected. It's because the system is so complex. The system needs to be made more, simpler, single taxation, simpler system, so that this kind of avoidance can be reduced. Because avoidance is not something which is easy to catch, and neither is it illegal. So yes, increasing the number of people who are paying direct taxes, because indirect taxes we are already paying, Faisal. You know, most of the money is coming from the indirect
and the rate
taxation.
is pretty high.
Yeah, but these are regressive, because anybody, you buy load in your, get a
You buy a
scratch
toothpaste, a
card.
pen or anything. I mean,
And you
go
have
and
to
eat
pay
at
taxes.
a restaurant. I mean,
Exactly.
everywhere there's a...
Yeah, but
and
this system is a regressive system, right? And a system in which honestly the FBR is doing nothing. This whole tax is being collected directly from the consumers, and it's only the producers who are then giving this tax lump sum. So this is the simplification of the tax system, and making as you rightly said, that the economy has to be documented, the informal sectors have to be brought back into the formal economy, and that is happening
we
legally.
always said that the informal sector should be documented. The grey area of economy shouldn't exist. I mean, it does exist in almost every country, and that's a reality. Since you're an economist, you know better. And secondly, it depends how much the grey area is. Forget about Colombia, forget about Venezuela. Let's talk about this region. There are issues in India, but they're trying to overcome. There are issues in Bangladesh also, but they have overcome to a very good level. And look at Sri Lanka, the way they are progressing. When it comes to Pakistan, we are at the bottom. Now the issue is, ma'am, over here, when you talk about that mindset, that culture that currently prevails, that cash, even if you have to bribe someone, it has to be a cruiser loaded with millions of dollars in cash,
Yes.
in Shazan or Rue Afza boxes, right? It's a reality. And there are places in Punjab where you can go and get your money transferred. All they'll charge is 5%. And this is a reality when you buy these big wigs and you have to pay that kind of a sum. This is how it works. But nobody talks about it. So that means that the powerful and the rich and the influential, as long as they are ruling, which we call the ruling elite, they will be there. Nothing is going to change because they are the untouchables. Rest we talk about, well, the salaried class will be looked after. But they are like a lemon, they've been squeezed and squeezed and squeezed to an extent that there's nothing more left in that lemon, which we should consider as juice. That's the problem.
Yes, I do agree that it is the salaried class. It is very easy to identify how much they are earning, and then the taxes are just deducted at source. But as far as the entrepreneurial class is concerned, even I think the way businesses are being conducted and the way costs are calculated within the business, that in itself includes this tax evasion and tax avoidance culture has really penetrated very deep. If you try to somehow change the way business is being done, of course, Faisal, that's going to take time. So yes, I do agree corruption has been a very big issue, but it's more than just corruption. Corruption is something which is illegal and it can be caught. There are so many legal activities which are impossible to trace, and they are not even considered wrong or corrupt in Pakistan. So to catch them, you need out-of-the-box solution, and out-of-the-box solution in today's age is called AI, artificial intelligence. You see, having the kind of numbers,
Absolutely.
the system which can configure itself, it learns, and this is the system. The best
All you
thing
need to do is to put a proper software in place in the right
Yes.
areas, right offices.
And
where
I
people can-
believe, Faisal, that kind of at least initiative, for the first time, the initiative is taking place in FBR. The new person who is the head, chairman of FBR this time, he is a person who has an IT background and he has delivered in other places. Now, we don't hear of it a lot, but that is the kind of change that is taking place. Again, I would also like to appreciate State Bank. Now, State Bank is also connecting itself to NADRA. Similarly,
Ma'am, the problem is
so
that
many
whatever they do, the point is, ma'am, those who are the powerful ones. I happened to interview Shabar Zaidi Saab, the former head of FBR. I think it was before Eid. And whatever he revealed was shocking, yet I knew about it. because he said there are people who are so powerful. I mean, we talk about the inside information in the stock market or capital markets for that matter, and there are people who are so well connected in Islamabad, and the kind of decisions that they will take after 2 days, 3 days perhaps, they already have the info. I mean, this kind of a rally which you have lately seen in the stock market, where the trade crossed 2 billion shares in a single day, making a record, right? Do you think that's a joke? Or what did we find? Some sort of a reservoir of oil in Punjab as big as Saudi Arabia's, or perhaps a diamond mine, or a gold reserve or something? It doesn't happen, ma'am. You know how things work.
No, it's,
I mean,
listen,
these are the areas exactly.
I mean, manipulation of the market, manipulation of the financial sector. That's a reality, and it doesn't only happen in Pakistan. It happens in even advanced countries, and that is why then you have stock market crashes, etc. So that is a reality.
I mean, look at the crisis of 2007-8.
Exactly.
America,
so
from
exactly.
where it started.
So it's not just limited to Pakistan. This kind of manipulation is real.
Even now, if you look at the kind of impact Corona has made, let's talk about San Francisco or Silicon Valley. Honestly speaking, I mean, people have left those houses which were costing them $4,000 a month, and those rents have come down to $1,500 a month. Just imagine. Mostly people are working from home, and perhaps now they will keep on working from home, because that suits a lot of organizations, rather than to have bigger offices, spend more. Look at Google. That's the only company, I guess, they are buying property left, right and center in the Silicon Valley. This is how it works. Ma'am, coming back to you in Karachi now, ma'am. First of all, very important factor, since we were talking about the taxation element. Ma'am, Karachi is a city, we all know the kind of input Karachi has as far as the economic uplift of Pakistan is concerned. Ma'am, there was this tax, VAT, it's everywhere. When it was introduced in Pakistan, I remember including Akil Karim Deri and so many other big investors and tycoons, especially in the stock market, they all opposed it. Secondly, ma'am, when you talk about documentation, you know, it's not a rocket science. Abdullah Sahib is going to throw light on it further. But ma'am, because a lot of people who are untouchables, they don't want that to be imposed, because that goes against their wish and the will. And if you want, I can take so many other names who are like tax avoiders here. I mean, they have been those who have been tricking the government. They are still doing the same. And ma'am, I'll give you one more example before I would like you to comment. Wes Laghari Saab was once telling us that when he was, I mean, that was a time when he was the IT minister, that from now onwards, no paperwork in the ministry. All we'll do is like we'll email, and we'll be pretty high tech. I'm talking about 20 years ago kind of, and Musharraf was the president and Laghari Saab was a blue-eyed boy. Ma'am, trust me, nothing happened, nothing changed, because people don't want that. We still believe, in storing our files in this form, ma'am. Even in couple of organizations, where I'm hinting, and there are loads and bundles. I think that is worth few million dollars perhaps, if you sell that paper. And storage, forget about that. Your take, ma'am. Automation, modern concept. Ma'am, if you please may switch on your mic, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yeah. Yeah, you're fine, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was saying I completely agree to your point that there are a number of formal and informal lobbies in Pakistan which try to influence policy formulation, including tax reforms. So we talk about taxing the untaxed. Agricultural income continues to be, to remain exempted from taxation. If we talk about, let's suppose, the banking sector, so there was a time that banking profits were charged a tax of around 50% back in 2000, 2002, and that has been brought down to 35% and 39% with super tax. So several efforts have been made by government for greater documentation of the economy. However, has failed because due to strong resistance from, I would say, business lobby. So there was a survey for this regarding the documentation of economy launched by government back in 2000. So it was strongly opposed and resisted by whom? The business sector. So yes, we do have multiple examples of strong resistance coming from the lobbies. And since you were talking about ways to document this undocumented, so only one example I would like to quote over here that back in 2019, so a provision was added to the taxation system that we were implementing a CNIC card for purchases above 50,000. So that provision was strongly resisted by traders for obviously their vested interests. So this is how unfortunately, our system works. And so, yes, we need to come up with, we need to devise a strategy. We do have a strategy, but as mentioned, if we are going towards digitization, so I think this institution needs to be on the top list when we talk about digitization. So in order to document economy, we need to crack down all the illegal channels or the undocumented part of the, or the gray part of the economy. So tax should be levied on the, the wire tax burden should be borne by the salaried class or even the businessman. There are several traders out there working on cash, as you rightly pointed. Go to, you're talking about Karachi, go to Jodia Bazaar, go to any other place where there you will find several traders even today working on cash. Even not only the traders, if we talk about the real estate, we see transactions taking place on cash. So this results in what? In higher circulation of cash. If I quote a stat over here, so the cash in circulation, the currency in circulation has gone up to almost 30% of the broad money. So this is alarming. This is alarming. This wasn't the case back 5 years back. So definitely this shows what? There is an influx of cash in the economy, and it is being utilized to carry economic transactions. However, they go undocumented and unrecorded.
All right, ma'am. Now, coming to you, Abdullah Yusuf Saab, whenever we talk about the opposition, obviously they're like a check on the government, and they always come up with things that the government claims they have done, and they'll have a counter argument. Now, I was listening to Miftah Ismail Saab the other day, and along with him was Maryam Aurangzeb as well as Dr. Tariq Fazal Chaudhry, and what I heard was very interesting. One, that the company of Miftah Ismail has posted record profits, number one, despite the fact that they always criticize the government that they're not doing enough. So that is a very interesting figure to sort of look into and all. Secondly, sir, one important area, and that is there for sure, and people talk about it, whether it's because of the demand and supply, is it because of the hoarders who do that, or perhaps it is the wrong policy of the government, or again, perhaps it is about those who control the system, and they are not a part of the government either. The movers and the shakers, the decision makers who are the most powerful, and they are the actual ruling elite. Now they talk about the price hike, they talk about inflation, and they talk about the unemployment, and that's a reality, sir. Perhaps is it because of corona or otherwise? Now, so they have also some very genuine concerns. Do you think, sir, whatever the government is currently doing is all hunky-dory, is all just as perfect as we all thought it should be? Or, I'm not going to use the word fudging here, but I mean, there could be some element of trick here, there, and somewhere.
You see, now one positive thing I feel is that this new chairman of FBR happens to be the ex-member IT, and I also had a word with him after he took over, and that is something that he is now having that advantage also with background experience to try and focus and deliver on this automation process. And again, as mentioned by Madam also, this one institution that we have is NADRA. NADRA has a lot of data bank which is already there, and I feel that we need to also use NADRA and in fact give them this responsibility to go for lot of data collection in addition to whatever they're having today, so that it is from all the potential sources of the economy. And that then you will have to ensure as the government to implement it irrespective of the this type of so and so in the opposition is saying this and not agreeing to this, etc., etc. It is something overall in the national interest which has to be done, and you have to go for it. And when you are going to focus and concentrate on this matter, that is, as I mentioned, this effort of automation, and the sole identifier is your CNIC number, and you have to really then see that all the potential third-party sources information is available, and that will then enable you to reach out to all those potential taxpayers who are not with you, and they are not going to come to you unless you actually go in this kind of a effective manner that is the proof that you will have, as opposed to nothing that you have today because of this cash economy, etc. So this is an area which needs a total focus, and I hope that this new chairman now in FDR will be actually working to try and achieve this objective. And that is something that in the national interest we have to all try and do, and hope that this actually happens.
Now, Abdul Yusuf, another important area, and that is about, we always talk about the tax to GDP ratio, and you always say that it should be technically over 15% to 16%, perhaps more. The more, the better it is. But sir, when you talk about the real growth in the economy, it is about the foreign direct investment, and the investment to GDP ratio is perhaps one of the most important, I would say, the figure to look at. Nothing is happening on that front, sir. Your take?
Yeah, this the foreign direct investment issue is a very, very important issue, and it is basically dependent on what is the position from the foreign investors' point of view in our country, in our economy. Are they going to be assured safety of their capital and then adequate return on their investment? They are going to actually get that, so that they will have that confidence to come in and make the investment. With the situation that we have, unfortunately, that type of confidence is not there with the foreign investor at the moment. And that is where you have to again concentrate, because unless we do
Sir,
that,
Abdullah sir, political uncertainty, I think that is the major reason. Because you talk about Zardari Saab's government, sir, from 2008 till 2013, and honestly speaking, every third day we would say, oh, they're going to go. But they stayed even perhaps for more than 5 years, 5.5 years. Then Mia Saab came in. We saw Durrani in 2014 that he's going to go today or perhaps tomorrow, or something is going to happen. And it happened. But now, ever since Imran Khan's PTI is in power, sir, we've been hearing the same. The opposition is out on the roads, yelling and all. The point is, sir, that political uncertainty, no matter at what sort of a level, really matters. I mean, look at this issue of Hamid Mir. It is concerned indirectly in a way that whatever he said, I mean, this is his personal business, and against whomever, whatever he said, he is answerable to them, and they are supposed to, get the answers and all. But what I'm saying is that the Indians, their media, their hawks, they are capitalizing on that front. blaming Pakistan, trying to put Pakistan under pressure through various agencies or organizations, human rights, so on and so forth, or perhaps through the major other media outlets. What I'm saying is that this is against the economic interest of the country also, sir. Forget about the national security or other important factors. I think such ridiculous sort of, approach, I mean, it should come to an end. It should come to an end now, sir. High time.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And that is what we are facing all the time. And we are not able to address all those kind of issues which keep coming up because there's a lot of this politicization problems that we face, as a matter of fact. And if we want to move forward, we will have to, as the, government of the day, would need to really take those very, very difficult decisions, in my view. And you'll have to stand up to that decision. Don't compromise on it. If it is something required in the national interest, you have to implement it. And if we get involved with the political considerations, then you will always have this type of a one step forward, three step backward kind of an approach. And you will not then get that output, the result, which is absolutely essential, necessary.
All right, sir, so what I've gathered that, in order to have the proper figures in place, in order to have the right numbers in front of you, first of all, your economy should be at least documented. And then one of the major and prime concerns there is that how to convert the cash economy into some digital mode, number one.
May I have
Please, sure,
a moment
Yeah,
because
sure.
I would like to comment on this issue of low investment. You see, when you're talking about greenfield investments or investments, which the foreign direct investment, a multinational company, for example, coming and opening up its shop in Pakistan, maybe in terms of the large investors, there is investor shyness for all the reasons which you have pointed out, because those are the realities and the political uncertainty. There's a way around it, Faisal, which is happening in Pakistan, and that also is a big positive. The way around it is that instead of equity investment, debt instruments are being used now. Now, I'll tell you what exactly that is. That is, for example, WAPDA trying to build, a dam. Instead of going to the typical World Bank and IMF lenders who have their conditionalities, they just float their bonds. And the bonds were oversubscribed 6 times. So you see what's happening here. You don't count that as investment because that is debt.
It's making something public property.
Exactly. So the property is going to stay with WAPDA, but the investors, instead of, that's the way around the problem of...
They'll be the shareholders, basically.
Yeah, they will, exactly. They're the shareholders. They leverage, and due to that, they reduce their cost. It's not considered as investment per se, but your task gets done. At the end of the day, you want a dam in your country, right? So, I mean, this is the first time that this kind of, capital mobilization in the capital markets was tried. So, it's a totally new thing. It's a new instrument. And now this has opened the way for other, local investors as well. As long as an asset is being built in Pakistan, you can find capital.
There are so many ways, ma'am. Malik Riaz, for that matter. You know what he said? I mean, give me a certain stretch of the highway, and I'm going to convert that into a commercial zone, and I'm going to build this. And people have absolute crazy purchasing power in Pakistan.
Exactly.
Forget about the ones we see begging. There are people who can practically, I mean, I will not take the name again of one of the top-notch business tycoons in Karachi. And you know what? He once asked me way back, it was 2004-05, I guess, when I moved back to Islamabad. And he was asking me about, a land available in Islamabad as big as a sector.
Oh my God.
You understand?
Yeah. I
so
do
I was
understand.
like, I mean...
But the problem again, you want to improve your investment level,
Anyway,
FDI.
yeah.
Instead of equity alone,
Yeah,
we
that's a-
can
that's a-
also
that's a brilliant
focus
way
on debt
to
as well. And
generate,
it's tried for the first
yeah.
time. So this is the kind of new,
One
out of the
brilliant
box
way
solution
to generate
which are
funds
being
and all.
tried by the government.
Yeah, yeah.
And these are the positives, Faisal, that make us
All right.
believe that maybe the growth rate will increase in the long
Let's
run.
see. The coming days are pretty important. But Dr. Farida, thank you so much for your presence. Abdullah Yusuf Saab, thank you so much, sir, for your
Welcome.
comments. And
Thank
it's
you.
always a pleasure, ma'am, Sana Tawfiq Saiba, to have you in the show. Thank you so much for your presence as well. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you, inshallah, tomorrow. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.